You're gone. I'm Reverend Bill Bean, and I'm known as the Spiritual Warrior. I've performed hundreds of exorcisms for people from all over the world. I've seen evil up close and personal, as there's a real battle raging over the souls of men. Join me as I present my stories from my case files, Tales from an Exorcist.
Okay, excuse me while I put on my mic. Hi, become part of the solution. One of our beautiful men here, Christopher William Bean, has this organization that helps people, for alcoholics and addicts, and he helps them. They got a new puzzle out that you can buy every day of the year, and they still have their calendar, probably, if you call him. Um, and the link to become part of the solution website is down in my comments. So go check them out. Bill Bean is in my comments. Go check him out. Now, the reason why I play those two songs before and all this before, because it's always right to give God thanks and praise. Without him being born, I'll praise him every day. Because without him being born and then dying on the cross, we have no salvation. So he deserves to be praised every day for his birth and every day for his death on the cross for us. He gave us a way. So anyways, that's my praise today for him. Not just that, I do other things behind the scenes too. Okay, let's talk about this Yutz. Okay, I'll call him a Yutz. His name is George Washington Wagner III. Billy Wagner is what he goes by. He is the last one to be tried for the murders of 8 people. The Rhodens, the Gilleys. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to get right into it because there's a lot to go by. The last video, I apologized. Something happened with my sound reading some of the charges, so please bear with me because at the end it gets better. So I don't want to. I want to make sure we got full these videos, these pictures. Excuse me. That's Billy and Angela, his wife. That's Billy being arrested. Um, I'm sorry about this. Billy, I found this Billy with his grandbaby. I mean, they gave up all this stuff for their grandbabies and their whole beautiful yard and house and everything, all for the sake of being jealous, basically. So, and those are his lawyers beside him. Okay, let's get into the videos that I have prepared for you. I will not be talking till the end after video 3. Video 3, the reading of it is all pre-recorded. Like I said, I apologize for the voice on it. Something happened, but it was really hard for me to get through that video, so to read it. Um, it does get better in the end. Um, I'll be back after that video. Enjoy, please. And comment. Talk in the comments if you want, or comment on the bottom if you watch this after I stream it live.
Keep your hands up high. Don't reach for it. Back up. You talking? Pull it out. Just walk out. Keep your hands up. Don't reach for nothing.
Back out of there.
Keep walking. Don't you reach for nothing. Want you to turn around. Right there. Keep going. Turn around again. Turn around again. Raise your shirt up so we can see. Slowly. Raise your shirt up. Slowly. Good. Turn around. Face the truck. Walk slowly back to my voice. Walk slowly back to my voice. Don't look at me. Keep walking. Keep walking. Keep walking. Keep walking. Keep walking. Keep Go down to your knees, sir. Go down to your knees, sir. Go down to your knees. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back. Stand up and come with me. Stand up. Come on. Come on. Get him behind this truck. Do you have anything on you, sir, that's going to stick me, poke me? Do you have any firearms on you?
I got a Leverman's tool on my right.
What about a firearm or anything like that?
No.
Anybody else in the car?
Are there any weapons? No. None at all. No, nothing. No. What's up?
These cuffs on. Let me lock them.
Guys, what's going on?
Well, you're under arrest right now. That's what's going on.
Okay.
I got his Leatherman.
No other. Let me search your job real quick.
Get it?
Nothing else on you, partner? Nothing illegal?
Nope.
Okay. Just so you know, before anybody talks to you, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say or do can be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one will be appointed for you. You have the right to stop questioning at any time. Do you understand your right?
Yes, I do.
All right.
All right, the matter before the court at this time is Commonwealth versus George Washington Wagner III. Mr. Wagner, you are here in court as an alleged fugitive from the state of Ohio. To determine whether or not you are willing to waive your identity, and that you are indeed George Washington Wagner III, who is wanted in Ohio.
I'm George Washington Wagner III. I guess I am.
All right, in that case, I would ask in the presence of your attorney, Ms. Kirk, that you sign your extradition papers. All right, at this time, Mr. Wagner, I will note that you did complete the extradition papers in the presence of your attorney. I've set this matter on my docket for the December the 7th at 8:30, courtroom number 3, to confirm that you have been extradited to Ohio. Give me a second, Ms. Kirk, and I'll get these.
This is the indictment for George Wagner III, otherwise.
A big question tonight, we're Rampage. It's where we begin in Ohio with our report from Gabe Gutierrez.
Everything that's going on. There's blood all over the house.
The first panic call for help.
My brother-in-law's in the bedroom and looks like I beat the hell out of him.
Shattered rural Pike County, Ohio, just before 8 a.m. Friday.
It's all this stuff that's on the news. I just found my cousin with a gunshot wound.
Okay, sir, is he alive?
No.
The grisly discovery launched an all-out manhunt. Sheriff's deputies would soon find 8 relatives shot dead in 4 separate homes, only miles apart. The victims ranged in age from 16 to 44. The family identified as the Rhodens. The baby's grandmother was Dana Rhoden, a nurse's aide at a local nursing home. Some discovered still in bed, investigators say, suggesting they were shot execution style while they were sleeping.
It looks like they're dead. You think they're both dead? I think they're both dead.
Just as chilling, who survived? 3 children, a 3-year-old, a 6-month-old, and a newborn just 4 days old, found in the same room as his dead mother. Authorities say none of the victims committed suicide, so they're warning residents that at least one killer is on the loose, considered armed and dangerous.
We do not know whether we're talking about one individual or 2 or 3 or more. We simply do not know that at this point.
The family, identified as the Rhodens, well known in Pike County, population less than 30,000. Today, a spokesperson reading a statement on their behalf, asking for privacy.
The Rhoden family would like to thank everyone for all the outpouring of prayers and support for their family. They ask that you to continue to keep them in your prayers.
Today, the extended family is shaken.
It's hard.
Pastor Phil Fulton knew some of the victims.
A very close-knit family that cared for one another, that worked hard.
Tonight, a $25,000 reward has just been posted for any information leading to an arrest, as this horrifying mystery in the Midwest deepens.
Huge manhunt is underway this morning for whoever killed 8 members of an Ohio family in what authorities call pre-executions. Their bodies were found Friday at 4 separate crime scenes in the Pike County area. That's roughly an hour south of Columbus. David Begnaud talked with the 2 men leading the investigation. He's outside Piketon, Ohio, close to where some of the bodies were found. David, good morning.
Josh, good morning. Over the last 24 hours, crews have fanned out through wooded areas near the crime scenes. They are looking for possible evidence left behind by the killer or killers in this case. In terms of a motive, investigators are exploring everything from revenge killing to gang involvement to possible drug activity. There were 3 marijuana grow operations found near the crime scenes, and the local sheriff here in Pike County says there could very well be more than one killer. What is it that opens the door to the possibility there may be more than one killer?
You have multiple crime scenes. You have 8 people in a family that were murdered. So is there a possibility one person may have came to one house, then to another, then to another, then to another? Yes. And then 10 or better miles away is another crime scene.
Pike County Sheriff Charles Rita says he has never dealt with a mass killing like this. The victims were members of the Rhoden family, 7 adults and a 16-year-old young man. Authorities say some of the victims put up a fight, all of them shot in the head.
There's blood all over the house. Okay. My brother-in-law's in the bedroom and I beat the hell out of him.
19-year-old Hannah Rhoden was killed as she slept next to her 4-day-old infant. That baby and 2 other children were not shot and have been placed in state protective custody.
We've received over 100 tips. We've done between 50 and 60 interviews.
And you've got the $25,000 reward.
We have a $25,000 reward for someone who gives us good information.
The surviving members of the Rhoden family have been warned. It is their family that was the target.
I told them to be armed, to be prepared to protect themselves.
This Rhoden relative was too scared to even have his face shown on camera.
All of us is torn up and you know what I mean, kind of freaked out because we don't know there's still a killer on the loose or killer.
Mike DeWine is Ohio's Attorney General. A Facebook thread that was directed toward the Rhoden family mentioned Chris Rhoden Jr. Are you aware of this Facebook thread?
I am aware of the Facebook threat. Every piece of information is valuable, and our investigators are certainly taking that into consideration.
7 of the 8 autopsies have already been completed. The final one will get underway this morning. It should be finished by later today. Gail, you heard the sheriff talking about telling the Rhoden family to arm themselves. I can tell you from our experience, we met with them. They won't even show their faces on camera, allow us to use their names, but they have made it very clear they are all armed this morning.
It's a very scary story. Thank you very much, David.
Hi, Billy. Anything to say to the families? Do you have anything to say at all?
Patriarch of the Wagner family walked into a Pike County courtroom this afternoon. 9 on Your Side was there. It's a contrast from the moments captured on video when he was arrested, accused in the Pike County massacre. 9 on Your Side's Tom McKee is in Pike County to recap Billy Wagner's not guilty plea.
Not guilty was the plea Tuesday from Billy Wagner here in Pike County Common Pleas Court to charges he helped murder 8 members of the Rhoden family as they slept in their beds in Pike County in April of 2016. It's the same plea from his wife Angela and their sons George IV and Jake. Billy Wagner came to court in an orange jail uniform with shackles on his hands and feet. He stood next to his attorneys as Judge Randy Deering read him his constitutional rights. Then the judge read the 22-count indictment that included charges that, in addition to aggravated murder, Wagner tampered with evidence in the case.
Alter, destroy, conceal, or remove any record, document, or thing, to wit, silencer and/or shell casings and/or parts of a home security system and/or other unidentified items.
Prosecutors claim the motive for the murders was a custody battle between the Wagners and Rhodens. One of the charges against Billy Wagner is forgery.
Forge any writing, to wit, custody documents, without the other person's authority, and/or did forge any writing, to wit, custody documents, so that it purports to be genuine when it actually is spurious.
Once the reading was over, Wagner told the judge he's not guilty of any of the charges. Watching the proceedings again were 24 Rhoden family members and 3 members of the Wagners. Prosecutors asked that no bond be set. The defense didn't object, and the judge ordered Wagner returned to jail until his next court appearance. The next step is for defense attorneys to plan their strategies and review the evidence prosecutors say they have that implicate Billy, Angela, George IV, and Jake. The stakes, of course, are very high in this case. A conviction could mean the death penalty. But as of right now, no trial dates have been set. Tom McKean, 9 on your side at Pike County Common Pleas Court in Waverly.
This is the indictment for George Wagner III, otherwise This is the indictment of George Washington Wagner III, who is defendant. In this case, he goes by the name Billy. No. This is the indictment of the state of Ohio versus George Washington Wagner III, otherwise known as Billy Wagner, who is the defendant. The jurors of the grand jury of the state of Ohio, within and for the body of the county of Pike, or by some manner enumerated in section 2901.2.12 of the Ohio Revised Code, whereby proper venue is placed in the county of Pike, on their oaths, in the name and by the authority of the state of Ohio, do find that on count 1, George Washington Wagner III, on or about the 22nd day of April 2016, at the county of Pike and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully and purposely and with prior calculation and design cause the death of another, to wit, Kenneth Rhoden, in violation of section 290301 of the Ohio Revised Code. Aggravated murder, which is an unclassed felony. Specification 1 to the first count, and all the specifications are going to be the same for count 1 through 8, I believe. So I'm not going to redo all of it, but I'm going to do it for the first count. Specification 1 to the first count. The grand jurors further find and specify that the said George Washington Wagner III had a firearm on or about his person or under his control while committing the said aggravated murder as specified in section 2941.141 of the Ohio Revised Code. Specification 2 to the first count. The grand jurors further find and specify that the said George Washington Wagner III had a firearm on or about his person or under his control while committing the said aggravated murder, and displayed the firearm, brandished the firearm, and indicated that the said George Washington Wagner III possessed the firearm and or used it to facilitate the said aggravated murder as specified in section 2941.145 of the Ohio Revised Code. Specification number 3 to the first count. The grand jurors further find and specify that the said George Washington Wagner III had a firearm that is an automatic firearm or that is equipped with a firearm muffler or suppressor on or about his person or under his control while committed the said aggravated murder as specified in Section 2941144 of the Ohio Revised Code. Specification 4 to the first count. Excuse me. The grand jurors further find and specify that the said George Wagner III committed the said aggravated murder for the purpose of escape and detection, apprehension, trial, or punishment for another offense committed by the said George Wagner III, as specified in Section 2941.14 and 2929.04A3. Specification 5 to the first count. The grand jurors further find and specify that the said George Washington Wagner, III, committed the said aggravated murder as part of a course of conduct involving the purposeful killing or attempt to kill two or more persons by the said George Washington Wagner III, as specified in Section 2941.14 and 2929.04A5. Specification 6 to the first count. The grand jurors further find and specify that the said George Washington Wagner III committed the said aggravated murder while the offender was attempting to commit or fleeing immediately after committing or attempting to commit aggravated burglary, and the said George Washington Wagner III was the principal offender in the commission of the aggravated murder, or, if not the principal offender, committed the aggravated murder with prior calculation and design as specified in Section 2941429 and 2929.04A7. Count 2 of the indictment. George Washington Wagner III, on or about the 22nd day of April 2016, at the County of Pike and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully and purposely and with prior calculation and design cause the death of another, to wit, Chris Rhodens Sr., in violation of Section 290301A of the Ohio Revised Code. Aggravated murder, an unclassified felony. Now, all the specifications that we had in count 1 are under count 2, as you see as I scroll up. Count 3. George Washington Wagner III, on or about the 22nd day of April 2016, at the County of Pike and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully and purposely and with prior calculation and design cause the death of another, to wit, Gary Rhoden, in violation of Section 290301A of the Ohio Revised Code. Aggravated murder, an unclassified felony. And again, all the specifications to count 1 apply to count 3. Count 4. George Washington Wagner III, on or about the 22nd day of April 2016, at the County of Pike and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully and purposely and with prior calculation and design cause the death of another, to wit, Clarence Franklin Rhoden, in violation of Section 290301A of the Ohio Revised Code. Aggravated murder, an unclassified felony. And again, in count 4, all the specifications are the same as in count 1. Count 5. George Washington Wagner III, on or about 22nd day of April 2016, at the County of Pike and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully and purposely and with prior calculation and design cause the death of another, to wit, Hannah Hazel Gilley, in violation of Section 290301A of the Ohio Revised Code, aggravated in an unclassified felony. And in Count 5, all the specifications are the same as in Count 1 again. Count 6. George Washington Wagner III, on or about the 22nd day of April 2016, at the County of Pike and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully and purposely and with prior calculation and design cause the death of another, to wit, Dana Rhoden, in violation of Section 290301 of the Ohio Revised Code, aggravated and unclassified. And again, in Count 6, all the specifications under it are the same as in Count 1. Count 7. George Washington Wagner III, on or about the 22nd day of April 2016, at the County of Pike and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully, purposely, and with prior calculation and design cause the death of another, to wit, Hannah May Rhoden, in violation of Section 290301 of the Ohio Revised Code, aggravated murder, an unclassified felony. And again, in Count 7, all the specifications are the same as it is in Count 1. Count 8. George Washington Wagner III, on about the 22nd day of April 2016, at the County of Pike and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully and purposely and with prior calculation and design cause the death of another, to wit, Christopher Rhoden Jr., in violation of Section 290301 of the Ohio Revised Code. This is aggravated murder again, an unclassified felony. And in Count 8, as you see again, the specifications are all the same as it was in Count 1. Those are all the murder charges. We're going to go to Count 9. There's a lot of counts. Count 9. Conspiracy, a felony in the first degree, is what it is. George Washington Wagner III, on or about the first day of January 2016 through the 12th day of November 2018, at the County of Pike, or by some manner enumerated in Section 2901.12 of the Ohio Revised Code, whereby proper venue is placed in the County of Pike and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully and with purpose to commit or promote or facilitate the commission of aggravated murder and or aggravated burglary with another person or persons, to wit, Angela Jo Wagner and or Edward Jacob Wagner and or George Washington Wagner IV and or any other unidentified and unknown and or unknown individuals plan or aid in planning the commission of any of the said aggravated murders or aggravated burglaries, and or agree with another person or persons, to wit, Angela Jo Wagner and or Edward Jacob Wagner and or George Washington Wagner IV and or any other unidentified and or unknown individuals, that one or more of them would engage in contact that facilitates the commission of any of the said aggravated murders and or aggravated burglaries, and subsequent to the said George Washington Wagner III's entrance into the conspiracy, a substantial overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy was committed by the said George Washington Wagner III or a person whom the said George Washington Wagner III conspired including but not limited to the following overt acts, to wit: making several purchases in the months leading up to the said aggravated murders and or aggravated burglaries, including but not limited to the following items: specific shoes from Walmart, brass catchers, items with which to build brass catchers, ammunition, a magazine clip, a bug detector, and or parts to build a silencer, and or various other items in preparation of these crimes: building a silencer, forging documents, including forged custody documents, obtaining and sharing information regarding the victims and their properties in preparation for these crimes, to include their habits and routines, sleeping locations, physical layout of the properties, counter surveillance devices present on the properties, including pets, illegal monitoring of various social media accounts, destroying and or tampering with evidence of the crimes, included but not limited to social media accounts, destroying a video recording device with which Edward Jacob Wagner had purchased in March of 2016, a silencer, a video and trail cameras belonging to the victims, and or phones belonging to some of the victims, moving the body of Christopher Rhodens Sr. and or the body of Gary Rhoden, providing false and or misleading information to the authorities, and or various other known and unknown overt acts, and or one of the objects of the conspiracy was aggravated murder, murders, or an offense for which the maximum penalty is imprisonment for life in violation of Section 2903.01 A1 and or A2, 2903.01 J1 of the Ohio Revised Code. That was a mouthful. Count 10. Hold on. Count 10 is aggravated burglary, and it's a felony in the first degree. George Washington Wagner, on or about the 22nd day of April 2016 at the County of Pike, and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully, by force, stealth, or deception, trespass in an occupied structure, to wit, camper located at 1084 Left Fork Road, Rhodens, Ohio, when another person other than an accomplice of said George Washington Wagner III was present, with the purpose to commit in the structure any criminal offense of the said George Washington Wagner III, inflicted physical harm with another, to wit, Kenneth Rhoden, and or the said George Washington Wagner had a deadly weapon or dangerous ordinance on or about the said George Washington Wagner's person in violation of Section 2911.11 A1 and or A2 and 2911.11 B of the Ohio Revised Code. Specification to the 10th count. The grand jurors further find and specify that the said George Washington Wagner had a firearm on or about his person or under his control while committed the said aggravated burglary, as specified in 2941.141 of the Ohio Revised Code. Specification 2 to the 10th count. The grand jurors further find and specify that the said George Washington Wagner III had a firearm on or about his person or under his control while committing the said aggravated burglary, and displayed the firearm, brandished the firearm, indicated that the said George Wagner III possessed the firearm and or used it to facilitate the said aggravated burglary as specified in Section 2941.145 of the Ohio Revised Code. Specification 3 to the 10th count. The grand jurors further find that specify that the said George Washington Wagner III had a firearm that is an automatic firearm or is equipped with a firearm muffler or suppressor on or about his person or under his control while committing the said aggravated burglary as specified in 2941.144 of the Ohio Revised Code. Now, counts 11, 12, and 13 are similar to count 10, and the specifications are all going to be the same as in count 10. Count 11 is aggravated burglary, a felony in the first degree. George Washington Wagner, on or about the 22nd day of April 2016 at the County of Pike, and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully, by force, stealth, or deception, trespass in an unoccupied structure, to wit, 4199 Union Hill Road, Piketon, Ohio, where another person other than an accomplice of the said George Washington Wagner III was present, with purpose to commit in the structure any criminal offense in the said George Washington Wagner III, inflicted physical harm on another, to wit, Clarence Franklin Rhoden, and or Hannah Hazel Gilley, and or the said George Washington Wagner III, had a deadly weapon or dangerous ordinance on or about the said George Washington Wagner III's person in violation of section 2911.11 A1 and or A2 and 2911.11b of the Ohio Revised Code. All the specifications are the same as in count 10. Count 12. George Washington Wagner III, on or about the 22nd day of April 2016, at the County of Pike and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully, by force, stealth, or deception, trespass in an unoccupied structure, to wit, 4077 Union Hill Road, Piketon, Ohio, when another person or other than an accomplice of the said George Washington Wagner III was present, with purpose to commit in the structure any criminal offense in the said George Wagner III, inflicted physical harm on another, to wit, Christopher Rhoden Sr. and or Gary Rhoden, and or the said George Wagner III, had a deadly weapon or dangerous ordinance on or about the said George Wagner III's person in violation of section 2911.11 A1 and or A2 and 2911.11b of the Ohio Revised Code. That's aggravated burglary in the first degree again. And the specifications are all the same as in count 10. Count 13 is another aggravated burglary charge, and it's a felony in the first degree. George Washington Wagner III, on or about the 22nd day of April 2016, at the County of Pike and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully, by force, stealth, or deception, trespass in an occupied structure, to wit, 3122 Union Hill Road, Piketon, Ohio, when another person other than the accomplice of the said George Washington Wagner was present, with purpose to commit in the structure any criminal offense in the said George Wagner III, inflicted physical harm on another, to wit, Dana Rhoden, Hannah Mae Rhoden, and or Christopher Rhoden Jr., and or the said George Wagner III, had a deadly weapon or dangerous ordinance on or about the said George Wagner III's person in violation of section 2911.11 A1 and or A2 and 2911.11b of the Ohio Revised Code. Aggravated burglary, a felony in the first degree. Now count 13, all the specifications are actually the same as in count 10. Okay. Count 14. We're almost there. 14. George Washington Wagner III, on or about the first day of January 2016 through April 22nd, 2016, at the County of Pike in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully and unknowingly acquire, have, carry, or use any dangerous ordinance in violation of section 623.17A1 and 2923.17D of the Ohio Revised Code, unlawful possession of a dangerous ordinance, a felony in the 5th degree. The specification 1 to the 14th count, the grand jurors further find and specify that the said George Washington Wagner had a firearm on or about his person and under his control while committed the said unlawful possession of the dangerous ordinance as specified in 2941.141 of the Ohio Revised Code. Specification 2 to the 14th count, the grand jurors further find and specify that the said George Wagner III had a firearm on or about his person or under his control while committing the said unlawful possession of a dangerous ordinance and displayed the firearm, brandished the firearm, and indicated that the said George Wagner III possessed the firearm and or used it to facilitate the said unlawful possession of dangerous ordinance as specified in Section 2941145 of the Ohio Revised Code. Count 15. George Washington Wagner III, on or about April 22, 2016, at the County of Pike in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully knowing that an official proceeding or investigation was in process or was about to be or likely to be instituted, alter, destroy, conceal, or remove any record, document, or thing, to wit, phones and or cameras and or unidentified items belonging to the victims, with purpose to impair its value or availability as evidence in such a proceeding or investigation, in violation of Section 292112A1, 292112B of the Ohio Revised Code, tampering with evidence, a felony in the 3rd degree. Now we have another tampering with evidence charge. It's count 16. George Washington Wagner, on about April 3rd at the County of Pike, April 3rd, 2016, at the County of Pike, in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully knowing that an official proceeding or investigation was in process and was about to be likely to be instituted and make prisoner use record, document, or thing, to wit, custody documents, knowing it to be false, and with purpose to mislead a public official who is or may be engaged in such a proceeding or investigation, or with purpose to corrupt the outcome of any such proceeding or investigation in violation of Section 292112A2 and 292112B of the Ohio Revised Code. That's tampering with evidence, 3rd degree. Count 17. Tampering with evidence, another felony in the 3rd degree. George Washington Wagner III, on or about January 1st, 2016 through May 9th, 2017, at the County of Pike and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully, knowing that an official proceeding or investigation was in progress or was likely about to be or likely to be instituted, alter, destroy, conceal, or remove any record, document, or thing, to wit, silencer and or shell casings, and or parts of a home security system, and or other unidentified items, with purpose to impair its value or availability as evidence in such a proceeding or investigation, in violation of Section 2921.12A1 and 2921.12B of the Ohio Code. That's tampering with evidence, a felony in the 3rd degree. Forgery, a felony in the 5th degree, is count 18. George Washington Wagner III, on or about April 3rd, 2016, at the County of Pike in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully in purpose to defraud, or knowing that the said George Washington Wagner III was facilitating a fraud, forge any writing, to wit, custody documents, without the other person's authority, and or did forge any writing, to wit, custody documents, so that it purports to be genuine when it actually is spurious, or to be an act of another who did not authorize that act, or to have been executed at the time or place, or with terms different from what in fact was the case, or to be a copy of an original when no such original exists, in violation of section 2913.31A1 and or A2 and 2913.31C1B of the Ohio Revised Code. That's forgery, felony in the 5th degree. Count 19 is unauthorized use of property, a felony in the 5th degree. George Washington Wagner, on or about July 1st, 2014, through May 9th, 2017, at the County of Pike in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully in any manner and by any means, including but not limited to, computer hacking, did knowingly gain access to, attempt to gain access to, or cause access to be gained by any computer, computer system, computer network, cable service, cable system, telecommunications device, telecommunications service, or information service, to wit, social media accounts without the consent of or beyond the scope of the express or implied consent of the owner of the computer, computer system, computer network, cable service, cable system, telecommunications device, telecommunications service, or information service in violation of 2913.04B or 2913.04G2 of the Ohio Revised Code. That's unauthorized use of property, a felony in the 5th degree. George Washington, on count 20. Excuse me. George Washington Wagner, on or about July 1st, 2014 through May 7th, 2017 at the County of Pike and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully and purposely intercept, attempt to intercept, or procure another person to intercept or attempt to intercept a wire, oral, or electronic communication in violation of section 2933.52A1 and 2933.52C of the Ohio Revised Codes. And that's interception of wire, oral, or electric communications, a felony in the 4th degree. Count 21. It's obstructing justice, a felony of the 5th degree. George Washington Wagner, on or about April 22nd, 2016 through November 12th, 2018 at the County of Pike and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully, with purpose to hinder the discovery, apprehension, prosecution, conviction, or punishment of another, to wit, Angela Jo Wagner and or Edward Jacob Wagner and or George Washington Wagner IV for a crime, or to assist to another, to wit, Angela Jo Wagner and or Edward Jacob Wagner and or George Washington Wagner IV to benefit from the commission of a crime, did destroy or conceal physical evidence of the crime or act, or induce any person to withhold testimony or information, to elude legal process, summoning the person to testify or supply evidence, and or did communicate false information to any person in any or the crimes committed by the said Angela Jo Wagner and or Edward Jacob Wagner and or George Wagner IV are a felonies in violation of section 2921.32A4 and or A5 and 2921.32C3 of the Ohio Revised Code. Obstructing justice, a felony in the 5th degree. Now we get to count 22. This is engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity, and it's a felony in the 1st degree. This case was proved beyond doubt with George Washington Wagner IV's case. So this is really this is one of the keys, I think, that unlocks all the other doors to him being involved. Okay, count 22. And this is engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity, a felony of the first degree. George Washington Wagner III, on or about January 1st, 2016, through November 12th, 2018, at the County of Pike, or by some other manner enumerated in Section 2901.12 of the Ohio Revised Code, whereby proper venue is placed in the County of Pike and in the state of Ohio, did unlawfully, while associated with an enterprise, to wit, a group of persons associated, in fact, included but not limited to, immediate family members of the said George Wagner III, to wit, Angela Jo Wagner, and or Edward Jacob Wagner, and or George Washington Wagner IV, and or Rita Jo Newcomb, and or John Doe, and or Fredricka Wagner, and or any other unidentified and or unknown individual or individuals, did conduct and or participate in, directly or indirectly, the affairs of the enterprise through a pattern of corrupt activity or the collection of an unlawful debt, to wit, engage in either individually or while being aided and abetted by members of the enterprise who facilitated the incidences of corrupt activity and conduct constituting the offensive, included but not limited to the following, to wit, aggravated murder, a violation of 290301A of Ohio Revised Code, and or murder, a violation of Section 290302A of the Ohio Revised Code, and or aggravated burglary, a violation of Section 2911.11A1 and or 2911.11A2 of the Ohio Revised Code, and or unlawful possession of a dangerous ordinance, a violation of Section 2923.17A1 of the Ohio Revised Code, and or tampering with evidence, a violation of 2921.12A1 and 2921.12A2 of the Ohio Revised Code, and or obstructing justice, a violation of Section 292132A4 and or A5 of the Ohio Revised Code, to include but not limited to the acts of alleged in this indictment in counts 1 through 20, count 21, which are incorporated as if fully written herein, and or at least one of the incidents of corrupt activity is a felony of the first, second, or third degree, aggravated murder and or murder in violation of Section 2923.32A1 and 292332B1 of the Ohio Revised Code, thus engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity, a felony of the first degree. Specification 1 to the 22nd count, the grand jurors further find and specify the said George Wagner III had a firearm on or about his person or under his control while committing the said engagement pattern of corrupt activity as specified in Section 2941.141 of the Ohio Revised Code. Specification 2 to the 22nd count, the grand jurors further find and specify that George Wagner III had a firearm on or about his person or under his control while committed the said engaging in pattern of corrupt activity and displayed the firearm, brandished the firearm, indicated that the said George Washington Wagner III possessed the firearm, and or used it to facilitate the said engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity as specified in Section 2941.145 of the Ohio Revised Code. Specification 3 to the 22nd count. The grand jurors further find and specify that the said George Washington Wagner III had a firearm that is automatic firearm, or that is equipped with a firearm muffler or suppressor on or about his person or under his control while committing the said engaged pattern of corrupt activity as specified in Section 2941.144 of the Ohio Revised Code. contrary to the form of the statute in such case made and against the peace of the dignity of the state of Ohio. This was filed in the Common Pleas Court on November 13, 2018 by Justin P. Brewster, Pike County Clerk. Prosecuting Attorney Rob Junk signed this. Angela Canepa signed this. Matthew Donahue, I do not know who that is. Stephen Schumacher signed it. They're special prosecuting attorney in Pike County. So, and it gives Rob Junk and Angela's emails. Do not email them. And the foreman of the grand jury has signed it. So that's the charges against Billy. I have all the indictments here, as you can see. And they're all basically the same, except for Jake Wagner's. He had that extra count with unlawful sexual engagement with a minor. Okay, here I have other acts. Basically, this was filed on February 22nd, 2021. This is a notice to use other acts of evidence to 404B, and you will see that they were gonna fight this. I don't know if they have or not. I haven't come across that particular video, but they don't like the other acts against him, and I could read through all this stuff, okay, but this is State of Ohio versus Plaintiff George Washington Wagner III, who is Billy. Excuse me. The other acts include they put this in December 20th, 2018 through August 21st, 2020. So that's, I guess, it was provided. The following other acts evidence in it pertains to the defendant's and/or the defendant's son, co-defendant's relationship with Hannah Rhodens, included but not limited to the following: Edward Jacob Wagner's domestic violence relationship with Hannah Rhodens, included but not limited to assaulting her, controlling her, chasing her, strangling her, and threatening her. Edward Jacob Wagner's threats to Hannah Rhodens, including but not limited to threatening to kill her and put her body where it would never be found. Edward Jacob Wagner's controlling nature told Hannah Rhodens, including but not limited to dictating every aspect in regard to their shared child. And I won't say the first name, but Wagner, even though you probably already know her name. Starting with Hannah Rhodens was pregnant and continuing up until shortly before she passed away. Edward Jacob Wagner's controlling nature toward Hannah Rhodens regarding her second child, Rhodens, baby Rhodens, the 4-day-old that was with her, including but not limited to telling her not to. This is interesting to me. This because it didn't really come out in. I didn't see it come out in George's trial, but Edward Jacob Wagner, controlling nature toward Hannah Rhodens regarding her second child, 4-day-old baby Rhodens, including but not limited to telling her not to disclose the child's actual father that it was his child, offering to give her money to put his name on the birth certificate, trying to convince her to move to Alaska with him and his family, and suggesting they raise his child alongside their shared child, as if the child was the defendant's. Now, you can go on the internet and find a paper clipping after the murders, and Jake is stating that he didn't know whether or not that baby was his. And here, it actually all but states he knew it wasn't his, and yet the "Oh Poor Me" came out in the papers to divert everybody's attention. So they completely lied to everybody, I mean the world, because it's in the paper. And I can find that newspaper clip, and if anybody wants it, I can actually link it in my description. Let me know. Defendant and his co-defendants control in nature towards Hannah Rhoden, but trying to limit their access to her own family during the time periods when Hannah Rhoden resided with the defendant and his family. Edward Jacob Wagner's obsession with Hannah Rhoden, wanting to get back with her and being jealous of her relationships with other males. Edward Jacob Wagner's attempts to get Hannah Rhoden to agree to share custody of their child, toddler Wagner, even after Hannah Rhoden made it clear that she would never agree to that. Defendant and his co-defendants spying on Hannah Rhoden, including but not limited to surreptitiously monitoring her social media. I can't pronounce that word. And attempts to have others spy on Hannah Rhoden whenever their shared child was with Hannah Rhoden. And report back to Edward Jacob Wagner, and Edward Jacob Wagner's surreptitious recordings of his interactions with Hannah Rhoden at the two different residences in the months immediately prior to the homicides. Defendant and his family co-defendants wanted Angela Wagner to raise toddler Wagner and wanted toddler Wagner to consider Angela Wagner her mother. Imagine that. So far, that's the only thing that is said about Angela Wagner. Even though I believe this case is more of a case about Angela Wagner's controlling nature than it was about Jake's. I think they both were very controlling. And I think it was more Angela's yeah, I'll talk about that later. The other following acts, evidence as it relates to Tabitha Claytor, included but not limited to the following. Now, Tabitha is George's ex-wife, George Wagner IV, the son. Defendant and his family's control and accusations of Tabitha Claytor during the time she resided with the defendant and his family, to include shortly after she fled the residence. Defendant and his family's complete control of the shared child that Tabitha and the defendant had during they messed up here, I think. Yeah, they did. They messed up. Because the defendant is George Wagner III, and okay, this is just to let you know. This is supposed to be George Wagner III and his family's control and accusations during the time he resided with the defendant and his family, to include shortly after she fled the residence. Okay, maybe. Okay, see, okay, they just messed up here, I think. The defendant and his family complete control of the shared child that Tabitha Claytor and George Wagner IV had during their marriage, up to and including getting Tabitha Clayton to sign away almost all of her custody rights under false pretenses, and not permitting her to see the shared child except for in rare instances, and only then, not unless one or more of the defendant and his family members was present. The defendant and his family co-defendants preventing Tabitha Claytor from contacting her family during the time she resided with the defendant and his family. Defendant and his family threatening to shoot Tabitha on the last night she resided with them before fleeing for her life. See, this is something that I don't think Billy was there. I don't know. Defendant and co-defendants having Tabitha's child referred to her and consider Angela Wagner, again, Angela Wagner as his mother instead of Tabitha being his mother. Defendant and co-defendant spying on Tabitha through that word again means including but not limited to that word again, accessing Tabitha's and her mother's social media accounts and by having others spy on her to report back to them. Defendant and co-defendants taking actions to prevent Tabitha from being able to regain custody of Tabitha's child, including but not limited to try to keep the child from her for more than a year so that they can claim abandonment as a strategy. And that bothers me. Because Tabitha tried and tried and tried, and then when they were up at the border and they were interviewed by BCI, George was all upset that Tabitha would be there. And she wasn't, but I mean, they knew full well what they were doing. And that is so heartbreaking no matter what to do to a mom of a child. That's really heartbreaking child, actually. You know, take Tabitha out of it. It was heartbreaking doing it to Tabitha, but doing it to that child that's just woe unto anybody who harms the hair on a little one's head. You know, there's a woe there. The following other acts evidence as it relates to Elizabeth Wagner, who was Jake's wife from Alaska, including but not limited to the following. And this was after Hannah Mae was murdered and her family was murdered. They moved to Alaska and Jake found himself a wife, and that is who we're discussing here. The defendant and his family co-defendants controlling every movement of Elizabeth Wagner, including but not limited to demanding all of her personal identifying information, her passwords, etc., and download and tracking applications on at least one of her devices. Defendants and families, co-defendants, accusations of Elizabeth and threatening her with bodily harm and death during the time she lived with the defendant and his family. The defendant and his co-defendants isolating Elizabeth Wagner from her family during the time she resided with them, at one point threatening to kill her family if they came around. And this is all abuse. I mean, the very abusive family. When I first, you know, on my intuitive side, when I first saw Angela Wagner in her indictment, all I saw was the word abuse come across the screen. So I guess it was abuse by the whole family, not just her being abused, but Billy being abusive, but the whole family being abusive. I saw the it was really bad with Angela. I didn't see it with Jake's indictment. I didn't see it with George's indictment, Billy's indictment. I didn't see it. I could feel something negative with Billy's indictment, but with Angela, I just got the word abuse time. I don't know if she was the facilitator of the abuse in the main abuser, or if it was just because this case was about her. She got very desperate, I think is the right word. She was very desperate to do anything she could, and that included murder. And so anyways, this whole thing bothers me, but you know, I've been abused, but this is just above and beyond the scope of abuse to somebody. I mean, murder is the ultimate abuse. So they isolated and threatened to kill her family, and that's scary stuff. I remember when my husband threatened to kill someone, and it was in front of my daughter, and I wasn't very pleased with it. And I do know that if he had access to a gun in a car, he would have done it. So, I mean, those things you can tell. You can tell when somebody's gonna do it, and a lot of times you can tell when they're just talking out their behinds. Defendants, co-defendants becoming upset when defendant's grandchild toddler Wagner started referring to Elizabeth Wagner as Mom. Defendant and his co-defendants spying on Elizabeth Wagner, including but not limited to going through their personal items, monitoring her social media, and contacting a private investigator to investigate her. I didn't know they did that. The hiring. Oh, they contacted a private investigator to investigate her. I don't know if they actually went through with that. So, the following other acts, in addition to that, and this is where it gets interesting to me, and Billy is actually singled out in some of these. In addition to acts already charged and alleged in the indictment as it relates to the criminal enterprise that the defendant and his family co-defendants make up, include but not limited to the following. Multiple instances of arson, various properties of their own financial gain, for their own financial gain. Multiple instances of theft by defendant and his family. Gas, tractor trailer, shoplifting. We saw all this with George's trial. We didn't see this at George's trial. Instance of defendant threatening Angela Jo Wagner with a gun. I read an article, a small snippet in the paper of that, where I think it was Billy that threatened with a gun. Allegations that the defendant had killed, plotted, threatened to kill others before. I don't know about that. Defendants involved in transporting drugs, engaged in drug trafficking. They touched on that at George's trial, but they didn't hone in on it. And I think if Billy goes to trial, I think these things are going to come out and it's going to be expanded on. Trying to get a mortgage, committing fraud. Defendant threatening Chris Rhodens Sr. with a gun within a week of the homicides. That has yet to be coming out. So we shall see if that does come out if George Wagner III goes to trial. Having others commit crimes to cover up their crimes, including but not limited to perjury, obstruction of justice. Asking and or ordering potential witnesses against them not to speak to investigators or to appear pursuant to subpoena, and or hiring attorneys for witnesses and accompanying them to their attorney's office, and continuing to do these things even after their arrest via phone calls and contacts by their respective attorneys, coordinating and or planning responses, testimony to public officials and or grand jury and or at trial despite non-disclosure orders of which they were each informed. I don't know if Billy did that or if that was the case with Angela. Okay. Well, we're not going to see Angela go to trial, so we might, if we don't see this, it was because Angela did it. Making threats to BCI, to or about BCI agents and or law enforcement and government officials. We saw that with George's, with the tapes that he had. Making a plan that not if all of them are arrested, how the ones who are not arrested would break the others out of jail. I think we saw that with George's. I'd have to go back. I haven't gotten that far. Defendant and his co-defendants functioning as one unit at all times. Demonstrative factors including, but not limited to the following: residing together in similar insular manner their entire lives, even while married as adults, with the exception of the defendant residing with his parents once his father became ill. Well, it wasn't just that. It was, I saw him leave when they burned down the property that they lived on with Billy's mom, owned it. And Billy went back to his parents' house, and Angela bought a house under her sons' names. It just seems really weird the way they treated their sons and how their sons didn't move out. when they were under Angela, and then Billy when he didn't have his mother's yard and his mother's land, he went back to his mother instead of going with his wife. I mean, I understand him taking care of his parents, but he really, I got to get to those, I want to go over those comments to Angela in one video. The defendant and his co-defendants function as one unit, even their entire, okay. Homeschooling their children, working together at all times, including but not limited to the defendant's son tandem driving at the time of their arrests. Which, that is kind of weird, where they work together, too. I don't know, maybe some people do, but that's kind of weird. I mean, it's not weird as far as, well, I got a job, if you need a job, you can come here. That stuff isn't weird, but the fact that they always work together, it was weird, because I think they worked at the same diesel shop, too, up in Alaska. Family meetings, voting on all affairs, including the personal private lives of defendants' sons, co-defendants, and their respective children and wives, shared financial resources accounts that were used and accessed by the defendant and each of his co-defendants, engaged in counter surveillance techniques to thwart the ability of law enforcement in investigating and detect them as the perpetrators of these crimes before, during, and after the homicides, and especially once they knew they were the focus of investigation. And that's signed by everybody in the clerk's courts. And it was filed February 22nd, 2021. So, that's that. Okay. Let me see if you can hear me. Anyways, I'm gonna listen. You might hear stuff behind me. I don't know if you'll hear it or not. My daughter's in making her brownies. Yum yum. So, thank you for getting through that. I'm glad we got through that. I mean, I'm not I guess it wouldn't be me if I didn't make a couple mistakes. However, there's a few things I caught, like um the threat against Chris Sr. I want to talk about that a little bit more. They would not allow that testimony in George Wagner IV's trial. So, I'm hoping we hear it with Billy Wagner's trial. It's all about Billy anyways. It's not really about, George threatening. This case was mostly about Angela being jealous. I mean, they can say it was about custody all they want, but they had to get it was in essence the heart of it, because Angela wanted custody of all the kids. They even wanted custody of little baby 4-day-old Rhoden. The article I had mentioned came out after the murders, and it was all about how Jake didn't even know if that was his baby or not. And of course, it is his 3-year-old daughter's sister, so he wanted custody of her too. And I don't know what Angela's obsession about having children around was. However, we might never know, but it's really strange. I have one child. I mean, some people love babies around. It's new life, of course, but the thrill about having grandchildren is that you don't have to play by the rules after your kids are adults. You can take the babies, spoil them rotten, and then give them back. And you can have your quiet time and your bubble bath with your wine and not worry if you get a little tipsy in your own house. So, anyways, I just wanted to get this through this because Wednesday is when Billy's another hearing is. It's not a trial. It's a pre-trial hearing and it's going to be interesting. It's him, he's the last one. So, I'm hoping for the family's sake he pleads out. And I was told that even the family doesn't know if they're going to plea out because, well, what if they change their mind that day? I mean, that can always happen. I wanted to mention Billy. Oh my God, his attitude in court there, man. I mean, I've seen a couple courtroom attitudes that he's had. So if he does go to trial, he's going to be kind of funny to watch. I hope he doesn't act like he did in those pretrial hearings because and they're gonna have to sedate him, if he does. Anyways, he looks like a bulldog in this picture, by the way. I'm glad you guys watched with me, and I know it's been long, and I know I'm not that great with streaming, but I try to bring stuff that is very interesting. The trial, I just, I don't like having this guy's face on my screen, but he's huge too. I mean, he's a monster. He's a monster. He's like 6'5", 6'6". And I really, really appreciate you all just getting through this and listening with me. Thank you. I hope you all have a great evening, a great sleep, and an even better tomorrow. Remember, hit that like button and share it out.